Google's AI personal intelligence takeover just started. Yesterday, Google did something that nobody in Silicon Valley thought would happen this fast. They took the most advanced AI they've ever built, powered by Gemini 3, the most capable model, and they gave it full access to your Gmail inbox, your Google Photos, your YouTube history, your Google Maps, your search history, and your purchase receipts, all of it. And they didn't just give it to paying customers. As of March the 17th, 2026, Google expanded personal intelligence to free users, available in the Gemini app, Gemini in Chrome, and AI mode in search across the United States. Free. No subscription, no credit card. They just handed the most personal AI assistant ever, built to hundreds of millions of people at no cost. And nobody is talking about what this actually means. So let's talk about it. Because I keep saying the AI race isn't about who has the smartest model, it's about who has the most information about you. And what just happened with Google's personal intelligence changes the game in a way that OpenAI, Anthropic, and Apple are going to be chasing for years. Let me explain why. Think about every AI assistant you've ever used: ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot. You type something in, it answers, then the next time you open it, it doesn't remember anything, right? It doesn't know you. It doesn't know your name unless you tell it. It doesn't know what you bought last week. It doesn't know where you're traveling. It starts every single conversation as if almost as if it's meant for you the first time. Now, it does have some sort of memory, but it's not very good and it forgets context a lot of the time. That's not what we're talking about today. That's how AI has just worked for the last 3 years. Now, every AI has been essentially a very smart stranger, who went to school, read every book, and passed every test, but still a stranger. Google's stated goal with personal intelligence is simple: an AI that feels like a natural extension of how you get things done. That sounds like marketing language, but let me show you what that actually means in practice, because there are a few examples that made me stop and think. Here's the first one. You're at a tire shop, you need a new tire, you don't remember your tire's car size, right? Any regular AI chatbot can try to figure it out if you just tell it the make and the model. But with personal intelligence, you just say, what size tires does my car take? And Gemini finds your purchase receipts inside Gmail, identifies the exact vehicle from the receipt, and gives you the specific without you having to remember anything, right? That's not a demo, that's not a prototype, that's what's live for free users in America. Here's the second one. You're shopping for a new bag. With personal intelligence active in Chrome, Gemini can reference your recent purchases, figure out what brands you like, what styles you wear, and surface options with small details, like matching the hardware color to shoes you bought last month. Gold hardware, it actually noticed you bought gold shoes and suggested a bag to match. Not generic list, your list. By the way, if you're wearing gold shoes, shout out to you. And here's the third one. This one is where I think most people feel it. You're planning a family vacation. You ask Google for things to do. With personal intelligence AI mode, it can pull your hotel booking from Gmail and your past travel memories from your photos to build a custom itinerary, not just generic tourist spots, but places tailored to what you and your family have enjoyed before. It sees that you've been to a lot of ice cream shops from your photos. It suggests a great old ice cream parlor. It sees your kids' ages from past trip emails. It suggests a museum that's actually good for that age group. That is not a search engine. That is a person who knows your family. Now, I get the skepticism, I really do. Some of you are sitting there thinking, that sounds like a privacy nightmare. And honestly, you're not wrong to think that. We'll get to that part in a minute, because this is not a commercial for Google. This is a real analysis of what's happening and what it means for you. But first, let me explain the technical reason why Google can do this when nobody else can, because this is actually the most important part of the story. According to Google's own technical white paper, the core challenge they solved is called the context packing problem. How do you let an AI reason across massive amounts of personal data from multiple sources without slowing everything down or breaking privacy? Here's the analogy I keep coming back to. Imagine you had an assistant, really good one, but every time they start a task, they had to read everything you'd ever written, every email, every note, every receipt from scratch, 1,000 pages every single time. That would take hours and it would be totally useless, right? Now, what Google built is more like a really smart index system. The personal intelligence engine handles what Google calls secure data retrieval, dense information synthesis, and real-time context assembly. In plain English, instead of reading everything you've ever written, every time you ask a question, it knows where to look. It reads the relevant parts only, and it does it fast. The model powering this Gemini 3 has a 1 million token context window. 1 million. That's roughly 1,500 pages of text it can hold in its head at one time. And your personal data, your emails, your photos, your searches can exceed that by orders of magnitude. So the context packing system is constantly deciding what's relevant, putting it in, and making sense of it. That's not simple engineering, that took years to build. And here's the part that matters strategically. The real unfair advantage in the AI platform war of 2026 isn't who has the smartest model, it's who has the most personal context. Google is activating a decade's worth of your data to build a moat that rivals like OpenAI and Apple struggle to cross. Think about that. OpenAI launched ChatGPT in 2022. ChatGPT has hundreds of millions of users, but OpenAI doesn't have your Gmail. They don't have 12 years of emails, receipts, travel plans, conversations. They don't have your photos. They don't have your YouTube watch history. They don't have the data streams that Google has been collecting with your consent for the record since you first made a Gmail account. Microsoft's Copilot integration with Office 365 is perhaps the closest competitor, but it lacks the consumer-focused email and photo repositories that Google has accumulated. Apple has your photos. Apple doesn't have your email at the scale Google does, and Apple's AI has struggled to ship anything close to this level of functionality. Google has spent 15 years building the world's most comprehensive picture of human life, email by email, search by search, and photo by photo, and now they've plugged an AI brain into all of it. That's a moat. That's a competitive advantage, not the model, the data. Now, let's talk about scale because this matters more than most people realize. Google's AI mode, the search experience where personal intelligence lives, already has 75 million daily active users, 75 million people every single day. That is not a pilot program. That is not a beta test for early adopters. That is a major consumer product at full scale. And as of yesterday, all of those users, plus everyone using the Gemini app and Gemini Chrome, can now opt in to give Gemini access to their personal data for free. If you want to understand why this is such a significant move, compare it to where things were 12 months ago. 12 months ago, AI personalization meant ChatGPT could remember your name and your job if you told it to. That was it. Today, Google is offering a free AI that knows your car's tire size from a 3-year-old receipt, that remembers the hotel you stayed at in Barcelona from a confirmation email, that notices you have 400 photos at your son's soccer games and starts making smart inferences about what you actually care about. That's not incremental progress, that's a total phase change. And I want to steelman the people who are worried about this because they're not crazy, right? The concerns are real. Android Police published a detailed analysis arguing that Google says personal intelligence is private, but the reality is a privacy disaster, citing the breadth of data access and potential for misuse if security systems ever fail. The Washington Post tech columnist Jeffrey A. Fowler noted that this is a new kind of privacy decision people haven't had to make before, one where you're not just sharing data with Google, you're letting an AI actively reason across your most intimate information. And here's the part that I think is genuinely worth thinking about. As Help Net Security pointed out, what we don't know is where this approach ultimately stops. There's no commitment about whether personal context will remain confined to Gmail and photos, or whether it expands further once users grow comfortable with AI-driven search that draws on more of their personal data. And that's a fair concern because once something feels normal, very hard to go back, right? And once people get used to an AI that knows everything about them, the idea of using a generic AI starts to feel like a downgrade. That's a form of lock-in and a very powerful one. But here's what Google actually says, and I'm going to give them a fair hearing here. Personal intelligence is off by default. You choose to turn it on. You decide which apps to connect and you can turn it off at any time. Gemini doesn't train directly on your Gmail inbox or Google Photos library. Training is limited to specific prompts and responses, and even that goes through filtering and obfuscation of personal data before being used. Google gives an analogy in their own blog post that I actually think is useful. They said, "We don't train our systems to learn your license plate number. We train them to understand that when you ask for one, we know how to find it." That's an important distinction. There's a difference between Google now knows your license plate and Google can find your license plate when you ask. One is surveillance, one is retrieval. Whether you believe that distinction matters probably depends on how much you trust Google, and I'm not going to tell you how much to trust Google. That's totally your call. What I am going to tell you is this. The people who are learning how to use these tools, who understand what's available, who understand how to get the value from them, and who are building their lives and businesses around AI, those people are going to have an enormous advantage over the people who are sitting on the sidelines arguing about privacy on Twitter. Both conversations can happen at the same time. You can care about privacy. You can be thoughtful about what you opt into, and you can still learn how to use these tools. The worst outcome isn't using AI. The worst outcome is being the last person in your industry who doesn't. Let me give you a real picture of what this means in practice. Think about the average person running a business today. They've got Gmail, they're using Google Calendar, they've got Google Drive, they've got years of emails, client conversations, invoices, contracts, proposals. They've got a Google Photos library full of product shots, events, and trips. Right now, all of that data sits in separate silos. You can open Gmail to find an email, you open Photos to find a picture, you search your calendar to find an old meeting. What personal intelligence does is collapse all of that into a single intelligence layer. You stop opening apps, you start asking questions. What did I agree to with that client in Q3? Find the photo from the event where I met that supplier. What did I spend on travel last year based on my receipts? Imagine having an assistant that's read every email you've ever sent, that has looked at every photo you've ever taken, that remembers every purchase you've made, that can answer any question about your life in seconds. That's what this is. And that's what just went free. And here's where I think the really big implication lies. And this is the part I haven't seen anyone else talk about. This changes what productivity actually means. For the last 30 years, productivity software has been about organizing your information better. Folders, tags, search bars, better filing systems, calendars that sync, apps that talk to each other. The whole game was, how do you find what you need faster? AI flips that question. The new question isn't how do I find it? The new question is, how do I get the answer? And that sounds like a small difference, but it isn't. When you're organizing information, you're still doing the thinking, you're still connecting the dots, you're still deciding what matters. When you're talking to an AI that has access to all of your information and can reason across it, the AI is connecting the dots. You just tell it what you want to know. That changes the value of your time completely. Think about a small business owner. Right now, if they want to understand what their best customers have in common, they might spend an afternoon going through emails, looking at old orders, checking the notes, and that's 2 to 4 hours of work. With personal intelligence and the right workflow, that becomes a 10-second question. For example, based on my Gmail emails and purchase history, what do my best clients have in common? 10 seconds, boom shakalaka, you're done. That's hours of work that vanishes every week for millions of small business owners. And that's just the beginning. Because right now, personal intelligence is still mostly reactive. You ask it something, it answers, but the direction this is moving toward is proactive. Google described January's launch of personal intelligence as moving toward AI that is more proactive than ever, anticipating your needs, understanding your context, helping you get things done before you even ask. Proactive, before you even ask. That means instead of you going to Google to find something, Google comes to you. It sees that your flight confirmation just arrived in Gmail and offers to check in for you. It sees a bill due in 3 days and asks if you want to pay it. It sees you're planning a trip based on an email thread and starts building the itinerary without you having to start from scratch. That's a fundamentally different relationship between humans and their information. And here's the thing about that shift. It's not just convenient, it's economically significant. If you're a freelancer or a small business owner, the number of hours you spend managing information, sorting emails, chasing receipts, organizing notes, searching through files is probably enormous, right? Some studies put it at 20 to 30% of your working week. Some go higher. If AI collapses that to near zero, what happens to that time? You get it back. You get hours back every single week, hours you can spend on the actual work, the creative work, the work that grows a business, the conversations that build relationships. That isn't a small thing. That's a genuinely transformational shift in what it means to run a business or build a career. And the people who figured out how to use these tools, who build the habits, who learn the workflows, who actually integrate AI into the way they work every day, those people aren't going to be twice as productive. They're going to be 10 times more effective. Right? Not because AI does their job, but because AI removes the administrative drag that was eating half their capacity. This is a moment where I want to be really direct with you. There is a group of people right now, millions of people, who are watching AI news like this and thinking, yeah, interesting, I'll figure it out eventually. And then there's another group who are actively learning, who are building workflows, who are testing tools, who are figuring out how to use this stuff in their actual businesses and their actual careers right now. The gap between those two groups is already significant. In 12 months, it's going to be enormous. That's why I built the AI Profit Boardroom, because information alone isn't enough. You can watch 100 videos about personal intelligence, but until you actually sit down and figure out, okay, what does this mean for my business? How do I set this up? How do I build a workflow that saves me real time? Until you do that, the knowledge doesn't help you. The AI Profit Boardroom is where we do the actual work together, where you take these tools, Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, the whole ecosystem, and build real systems that save you real time and make you money. If you're serious about not being left behind, go to the arprofitboardroom.com or go to the link in the comments description and let's get you ahead of this curve before it runs past you. Now, I want to come back to something I said earlier because I don't want to leave this hanging, the privacy question. Because here's the thing, I think there's a real question buried inside all of this that most people aren't asking clearly. The question isn't, is it safe to let Google read my email? The question, Google already has your Gmail. They've had it for years. The servers where your emails live are Google servers. The question of whether Google has access to your emails, that ship sailed. It sailed when you made your account. The real question is, do I want to let an AI actively reason across my data in real time in ways that I can see and benefit from? That's a genuinely different question. It's one worth thinking about carefully because here's where I land on it. If I'm already trusting Google with my emails, and I am, I've been doing it for a decade, then having an AI that can actually help me use that information feels like a better deal than just having it sit there. The alternative is Google keeps all your data, you get nothing useful from it, and you still can't find that email from 2 years ago without spending 15 minutes on it. That's not privacy, that's just inconvenience, right? The real privacy concern is about Google training their models on your personal conversations, and that's where you need to read the fine print carefully because the line they've drawn is Gemini doesn't train directly on your Gmail inbox or Google Photos library, but it does use your prompts and its own responses to improve functionality over time. That's an important nuance. Your emails don't become training data, but the conversation you have with Gemini about your emails might. Is that okay? Only you can decide. But I want you to make that decision with clear information, not fear, because the fear around AI and privacy often comes from conflating things that are genuinely different. Now, let me talk about the competitive picture for a minute. Because understanding who this hurts and who it helps is part of understanding how big this moment actually is. OpenAI is watching this with a lot of concern, and they should be. ChatGPT has been the dominant consumer AI product for 3 years. It's smart, it's useful, it's well marketed. But the one thing it can't do, the one thing it will never be able to do without a major acquisition or partnership is access to the depth of personal context that Google has. OpenAI doesn't have your Gmail. They have your conversation history inside ChatGPT, but that's like a fraction of what Google can access. They launched a memory feature. It's decent, it helps, but it's built from what you tell it. Google's is built from what you've already done, and years of it. Compared to its competitors, Google's personal intelligence requires deeper data access. ChatGPT memory is based on one conversation only. And Perplexity and Claude projects are based on search and conversation history. Google Personal Intelligence reaches full email and photo access. It's the most invasive, but it's also the most powerful. Apple is facing a different problem. They have your photos, they've been building Apple Intelligence for 2 years, and Siri is still not anywhere near close to what Google just created for free. Gemini's personalization features could compete directly with the Siri personalization that Apple plans to bring later this year, as connecting Gmail and the other apps to Gemini mirrors some of the functionality that Apple is introducing for Siri. Apple is working on it, but they're working on catching up to something Google was already shipping and expanding. That's a bad position to be in when your competitor just made their product free. Microsoft is probably in the best position to compete here because they have enterprise email through Outlook and productivity data through the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. Copilot is actively trying to do something similar with work data, but the consumer side, personal Gmail, personal photos, personal search history, that's Google's domain in a way that Microsoft can't easily replicate. So what does this all mean for where we're going? I want to project this forward, not in a speculative way, in a grounded way based on what's actually happening. Phase one of AI was build a model that can answer questions well. We're mostly done with that phase. GPT-4, Gemini, Claude, they're all remarkably capable. Phase two of AI is connect the model to information that makes it actually useful for your specific life. That's what Google just launched. That's what we're watching happening in real time right now. Phase three of AI, which I think is probably 12 to 24 months away, is proactive agents. AI that doesn't just answer when you ask, but asks on your behalf before you need to ask, right? So books a flight, schedules a meeting, pays a bill, sends a follow-up email, manages a calendar. When Google has personal intelligence already running, already connected to Gmail, already trained on your preferences, already knowing your patterns, they have a 4 or 5 step head start on the most important race in technology right now. The race to build AI that actually lives inside your life, not just answers questions, lives inside it. And here's the thing about that race. The winner of that race is going to be more embedded in daily human life than anything that's ever existed before. More than search, more than social media, more than smartphones. An AI that knows your life, manages your time, handles your information, anticipates your needs, and gets smarter the longer you use it, that AI becomes indispensable in a way that nothing before has ever been. And Google just moved to the front of that race. So what do you actually do with this information? Well, Here's what I want you to take away from today. If you have a Google account and you haven't looked at personal intelligence yet, go look at it. You have to explicitly opt into the personalization. You can disable specific apps from connecting. You're in control of what you turn on. Go explore it with clear eyes. Understand what it's doing and why. Make a conscious decision about it rather than ignoring it. If you're a small business owner or freelancer, think hard about how much time you spend managing information, searching for emails, looking up old documents, digging through receipts, because that is exactly the category of work that tools like personal intelligence are designed to eliminate. And if you're not thinking about how to use AI to get that time back, well, someone in your industry is. If you manage a team, understand that your team members are going to have access to AI that dramatically changes how they work. The question isn't whether to allow it. The question is whether you're going to have a strategy for integrating it, or whether you're going to be the leader who wakes up in 6 months and realizes your competitors' teams are doing in 2 days what yours takes 2 weeks. And if you're someone who's been watching the AI wave from the sidelines, someone who's curious but hasn't really committed to learning this stuff, I want you to hear me on this, right? The window for getting ahead of this curve is closing. It's not closed, but it is closing. A year ago, knowing how to use AI well was a differentiator. It made you stand out. Today, it's starting to become like normal. In 12 months, it'll be a prerequisite. The people who get comfortable with email early had a decade of advantage before over people who resisted it. The people who got good at search early had a decade of advantage. The people who figured out social media for their business in 2010 built audiences that took competitors 10 years to replicate. We're at that moment right now with AI, and this specific update, personal intelligence going free, is one of the signals that we're past the early adopter phase and into the mainstream adoption phase. That's the moment where the advantage goes to the people who are already fluent, not the people who are just starting to pay attention. You want to be fluent. And you can be, but it takes time and it takes effort and real practice with the actual tools. I'm gonna be honest with you about something. I watch a lot of AI content, I read a lot of AI news, and the thing that frustrates me most is that so much of it is just information delivery. Here's what happened, here's what it does, good luck. That's useful, but it doesn't actually help change the way you work. The AI Profit Boardroom exists specifically to bridge that gap. It's where I work with people, business owners, creators, freelancers, people who want to actually use these tools to build real systems, not in theory, in practice, with your actual business and your actual workflow. If you want to be a part of that, the link is in the comments and description, or go to the AIprofitboardroom.com. Now, let me close with something I think about a lot. We talk a lot about what AI can do, and it's impressive. The demos are wild, the capabilities are real, and the pace is breathtaking. But what I actually find most interesting isn't the capability, it's the shift in what we spend our time on. For all of human history, getting information has been really hard, right? Finding what you need has been hard. Remembering the right thing at the right moment has been hard. Managing the complexity of a full life, work, family, finances, plans has been hard. AI doesn't make humans smarter, it makes the administrative cost of being human dramatically lower. And what happens when you lower the administrative cost of being human? People have more time, more attention, more capacity for the things that actually matter to them. There's a version of this story that's genuinely exciting and genuinely hopeful. A world where the average person has a kind of informed, personalized support that used to be only available to people who could afford an assistant, a financial advisor, a personal shopper, a travel agent. There's also a version of this story that is concerning, right? A world where we trade privacy for convenience in ways we don't fully understand yet, and where that trade off accumulates into time into something we didn't agree with. Both of those things can be true at the same time. What I keep coming back to is this: the tools are here, they're getting better every week, they're getting cheaper every month, and the question that matters most isn't whether Google or AI is good or bad, right? The question is that matters really is like whether you're going to understand it well enough to shape how it shows up in your life. Whether you're going to make conscious decisions about what you use, how you use it, what you share, and what value you get in return. The people who are paying attention right now, who are learning, experimenting, building, those are the people who are going to be in a position to answer that question on their own terms. The people who aren't paying attention, they're going to have decisions made for them by whoever builds the tools they eventually end up using. You want to be in the first group. That's all I've got for today. If this was useful, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you're not already. And if you want to go deeper and actually build and implement real AI workflows for your business, come find me at the AI Profit Boardroom, link in the comments description, or just go to the AIprofitboardroom.com. I'll see you tomorrow.